topic is? You know what the topic is?
Yes, Maharaj.
You sent something to me.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear what the topic is. So just follow, I'll try my best to follow your response to what you said. I think I know what you said, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So the request from the host was to speak about teens' struggles in the material world and how they can keep up with Krishna consciousness.
From the teen's perspective or from the parents' perspective?
From the teens' perspective.
But the teens aren't here because they're in New Vrindavan. What to do?
Well, I didn't request my.
You didn't request.
Maybe my wife.
Maybe your wife requested. Maybe your wife can speak. You know what the topic is? No. What to do? I can, blah, blah, something. I was thinking about the topic, but from the teen's perspective or the parents' perspective, because there aren't any teens here.
I would say, like, from the teens' perspective, Maharaj, it would help them if they hear this recording.
But they're not here. What to do? You're a teenager? Hey, can we talk? How old are you?
14.
14. You're in for a ride.
Even she's.
Is this topic relevant to you? Kinda?
Yeah.
A little bit? Not too much?
Not it is.
A little bit. Okay, so from a teen's perspective, I mean, there's the big picture, and then there's medium picture, and then there's little pieces. Ah, this is the wife. Yes?
Yes.
You know what the topic is that you requested, right? Could you say it again and make sure we got it right?
Teens' struggles in the material world and how they can retain Krishna consciousness.
Yes.
Yes? That's it. Okay. Well, first they have to have it to retain it. So from an adult perspective regarding the teen, there's expectations that adults have, and teens don't have necessarily the same expectations that the adults have, because growing up in America today, one may be from, blah, 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 family. But, I'm growing up in America today, and there's not the same values that those who I associate with. Some have, many don't. There's a lot more options for me than the way mom and dad grew up. And I'm a teenager, and I don't want to just follow. I mean, I'm not necessarily, they're different. The bigger picture is they're different personality types. Some younger generation persons, they like. Some younger generations people, they want to experiment. They want to explore. Check out this, check out that. Some are, so the bigger picture is their different personality types. So the question is, how is a teenager going to maintain, which the assumption is there's already something inside there. That's the assumption, right? There's already a Krishna
Yes.
attraction already inside there, and I'm exposed to so many things. So as a teen that already has something inside, I want to select. I have all kinds of friends, but I want to select closest friends, those who are of good character, wholesome people, and those that also have a similar spark. They don't have to be like me, but a similar spark of Krishna attraction, Krishna value. So, one of the most important things for a teen growing up anywhere, growing up in America certainly, is having wholesome friends in general and some very close friends that are Krishna consciousness inclined, or at least spiritually inclined. They may be of a different upbringing and different persuasion, but have a clear spiritual purpose in life. The principle is in Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita principle is according to those with whom one associates, sangat sanjayate kama, kama krodha vijayate. The desires develop according to the association one keeps. And as a young person that has some Krishna consciousness and I want to maintain it, I want to select Krishna conscious friends. And there's not necessarily a whole bunch of them. Certainly not abundant. And maybe even a little bit, not proximate or a little bit remote. So for an example, that what's going on in New Vrindavan right now is a real good way to make spiritual connections for young people, because they're there because they want to be there. There are different reasons why they want to be there. Youth that want to make their connection with Krishna stronger, and then the youth, have identified persons who collectively, at least the organizers, feel this person, that person, the other person, that we find them very relatable, specifically in terms of how we feel they help our Krishna connection become stronger. So events like that, Sangha like that, doesn't have to be a Kumbh Mela, but something where because from those events, there's friendships. And then the friendships tend to continue. They also sometimes fade after some time, but they tend to continue. And then the organizers, they want to see that they continue. So there are take-home recommendations, exercises to continue that kind of Sangha. So even if, like this is before school starts, and then when school starts, it's a whole other thing of what summer was like. More pressure and more demands on time and things. But if that association can sustain, then even there's other distractions and other duties and responsibilities and goals and all those things. A real good maintainer of Krishna consciousness during teenage years is having a reading group. It's a Sangha principle again, kirtan group and reading group, and where others, preferably similar age, doesn't have to be the same age, but preferably similar age, or it doesn't even have to be the same age or similar age, just persons who periodically or regularly get together and do spiritual things together, read together, discuss together, take a project. We'd like to organize something, or we'd like to have something. Do some things together that have Krishna at the center. Because the principle of Sangha Sanjayate Kama, the principle of Sangha makes all the difference. So while keeping, different persons in the circle of those who I consider to be friends, there's the very close friends. Those close friends I can share things with. They share their things with me. We maintain confidentiality so that we can share things that are confident. So having that kind of friendship is important. And again, it doesn't have to be proximate, but it has to be a real life person that in these days, through communication methods, people can keep in close touch with one another, even they're distant. Having little goals, like I'll just share one little goal. There's a young girl somewhere, and she's just turning teenage, and I happen to know when her birthday was, so I sent her a birthday message. And thanks for remembering me on my birthday. And I was thinking, for this next year, I'd like to. So she stated a goal for herself. I didn't ask her, but I'm there to support her goal. And she has some friends that know her and that support her goal. So having some spiritual goal, let's say, because it's summertime, supposing reading. So I during the summertime, I want to read the following book or books. And when school starts, I'd like to read at least, something, 3 verses from Bhagavad Gita every day or something. Little goal that I set for myself. Because that's it, just checking in with Krishna every day. Minimum. Maybe more, but minimum, and then maintain it. And how that's all going to work, because I didn't understand exactly, this is from the teen's perspective. From the parents' perspective, a lot of whatever happens during teenage is bearing the fruit from what happened before teenage. And then there's the whole parenting topic. And what makes for good parenting, so that down the line, the teen fruit of the parenting topic, preteen, bears fruit. That is to say that maintaining Krishna consciousness is really what the issue, not refinding Krishna consciousness, because it's easy for young people to get distracted. The parenting part has the pre-teen activity, and I would say something that Prabhupada said. This is one Prabhupada said. I was thinking on the way over here. When a child reaches teenage, the dynamic of parent and the child, it should change, because they're moving into exploring what young adulthood is. So from the authority to the dependent, it should shift to being more like friend and friend. It's a superior friend, obviously, but the dynamic should change, so that I, as a teenager, can share things with mom and dad, and they're not going to freak out when I share things with mom and dad. Because freaking out is easy. What? I'm not going to talk to you anymore. But so being able to share things where it's a conversation. Oh, really? Somebody said that or did that. You had that desire. And then what happens? And you know, just, oh really? Okay. Gosh, and what were you feeling with you're like a mirror, and you know, you have feelings, but you're not imposing your feelings on their feelings because their feelings are important, and you respect their feelings are important, and you just you can did you consider, you know, as a friend might say to a friend, did you think of this? What were your thoughts when this thing that happened, and this challenge, and someone insulted you, or somebody bullied you, or something? What'd you do then? What happened? What were your feelings? And so, just act like a mirror to help, like a friend will guide a friend, and be very cautious about the instructing role. Be very cautious about it. So, if parents have that disposition with a teenager, makes it easier for the parents to guide as a friend would guide another friend. Look out for the ditch, or look out, there's a cliff over there. Don't go, watch out for the cliff. Don't fall off that cliff. You can, you know, those kinds of words of caution are what a friend would do with a friend. So just stay in that mood and that role, and then the teenager can take wisdom and strength from one who has wisdom and strength without feeling I don't want to talk to them anymore because they're too demanding, and I want to start making my own decisions, please. So it's a little I feel a little awkward having a discussion with a room full of parents and there's 3 teenagers in the room. And the talk is from the teenage perspective, da 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 da. So what I'd rather do is shift gears a little bit. And just if you 3 would be willing to be, you know, communicative, maybe you could share, either of you or you, because the other ones are off in Vrindavan. You know, what are some things that you look to that help you maintain the Krishna consciousness that you've received up to this stage of your life? Going forward in your life, what do you do to help secure and sustain the Krishna consciousness that you've received and that you're cultivating? You mind being a guinea pig? You understand the question,
Yeah.
right?
I would say maybe like repetition. Because so like if I'm doing like chanting one day, for example, like 5 rounds, then if I want to keep doing downward or increasing, then I would probably have to do that every single day. And like just chanting Krishna's name by itself is gonna help me eternally stay connected to him.
So the principle of repetition, that's like having a vow and upholding the vow. That's what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Yeah.
Can you give another example? Like for example, do you like listening to kirtan?
Yeah.
Of course. Who doesn't? And do you do that with some, back to the word, regularity, or just on occasion, or
I would say like in the mornings I usually like to listen to kirtan.
and you try to make that like something that you do each day because it nourishes your Krishna bhakti?
Yeah, I would say so.
What any other things like reading or choosing friends or how you communicate with others, or is there some principles that you observe? I hope you don't mind my asking.
No, I would agree on also choosing friends because like your friends also like decide where you go. I would say so. Like choosing a good group of friends is always good because if you choose a bad group, then that can lead you away from Krishna.
Do you have such friends?
No.
No. So that's a moving forward in time is identifying where are there such friends? Are there individuals or little, maybe there's like little, like I mentioned, little sangha persons that have a reading session that they do on a regular basis, some once a week, or some whatever it is, and find out what those little pockets of people your age do stuff like that, and see if you knock on their door and see if they'll let you in. Since in regulation, you're saying repetition, but regulation is a very helpful principle to live by. Can I pick on you back there? You understand the topic? Now, I'll repeat the topic while I'm trying to get the microphone to work. The host here, the wife specifically, asked me to address. Okay. The host asked me to address what should a teenager do going through teenage life to sustain and maintain Krishna consciousness, because there's challenges. So I started, speaking to adults, but the topic is not from the adult perspective, from the teen perspective. What are some things that can be done? So my question to you is, what are some of the things that you do? Some, list a few, and that helps us sustain, maintain the strength of your Krishna consciousness that you've received. Cool.
For me, I feel like it's mostly kirtan. Like whenever I find opportunities to like either play mridangam or be in kirtan, I do it, and it really helps because you're connecting with Krishna, but you're also connecting with the people that you do kirtan with. So you make those friendships while in Krishna consciousness.
Okay. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna go a little more deeply with that one. Trying to remember where it was. I think it was in Houston. And there was an evening. I know what it was. It was a japa retreat, and then it was somebody's bright idea that we should have a session just with the youth. They have a youth group in Houston. So I asked a question, and I was really surprised by the answer. The question was, do you have any idea why it is that, at least my observation is, young people like kirtan, but they don't like japa? Do you have any idea why? And I got the first two answered. What would your answer be?
There's more like rhythm, more like melody to kirtan.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same mantra, but I feel like it's just more, I'd say, fun. Like,
Yeah. So the answer I got, same. The language was different, but music. I like the musicality of kirtan. So okay, so when you're doing kirtan, it's the musicality of kirtan that attracts you. Do you like other music? Oh yeah. The other music. And what about japa? No. So that means, for him, it's not about the spirituality of kirtan, it's the musicality of kirtan. And that, that's okay, because kirtan is there. And maybe, through osmosis, something's going to rub off. Anyone else? Just, I'm having a dialogue with you about what they said. They said, another one said, social. I make friends with the people I do kirtan with, and so that's important to me. Relationships are important to me. What about japa? No. Have you think about it? I never think about it. Never think about it. It wasn't thumbing his nose. It was just being blunt. The sharing mood was what both of them were into. Now, there are other persons in the audience that had a very different, a natural attraction for japa and reading and, and kirtan, but not just the spirituality, the musicality and the social aspect. So kirtan is great. Any way you cut, kirtan is great. Somehow, the topic is to maintain a Krishna consciousness. Seems to me, it's a suggestion that while the attraction for kirtan is there, make sure, this is a recommendation, make sure that the name moves more central than the musicality. I'm not saying you or this other person. It's just a principle to maintain Krishna consciousness. Because, you know, Bahunam Janma Namante Gyanavan Mahaprapajate, it's very, very rare to find, to take birth in the family that you've taken birth and get the education in Krishna consciousness that you received. Wow. Out of millions and millions and millions, it's very special. So, you value that which is very special and invest energy in that which is, along with the music, the rhythm and the melodies, the sound of the mantra. Just advice to maintain Krishna consciousness. It's certainly possible that someone can just go on through their whole life becoming very refined in the musicality of kirtan and do a fantastic job. And even you attract people to kirtan. Who's your favorite kirtan singer? Do you have one? A few of them probably.
I'd say Kirtan Prem Prabhu.
Okay. One of them I really like is Madhava.
Yeah.
And one of the things with Madhava Kirtan that I like is it's not frills. He takes one melody and stays with one melody for a long time. It's, the rhythm, the pace starts to pick up, but not so much. Anyway, it's just, he's calling from his heart. That's my attraction. And it's powerful. That's the power of Madhava's Kirtan. His voice is nice, but I've heard better voices. But, it's a little raspy and anyway, it's the bhakti that's coming from him that lies in Bhattahari similarly. Bhattahari has, was a musician. You know Bhattahari's background? His wife told me. Once upon a time, Bhattahari was a music student. He graduated with some special honors, and right after he graduated, he was on a tour with a band, and they traveled around Europe and da-da-da-da-da-da. Then he lived in California, so he came back to LA. When he got to LA, he received a book from a devotee in the airport. The very next day, he went to the temple. The very next day, he was living in the temple. And his wife was looking at her husband as she was describing all this. He just left his budding musical career behind. The musicality continued with him. But when he leads kirtan, he lights up. He lights up the room with not only his face, the joy of kirtan, but the mood that's inside. It's just, he's like a light bulb, just very bright. There's a spiritual happiness inside him. He's a musician, but it's, bhakti. So find kirtan players like that. I mean, you probably have them, but make that kind of an endeavor, and your bhakti life will grow, and your attraction for Krishna will grow. And are there other things besides kirtan that help you maintain your Krishna consciousness and the friendships that you have with your kirtan friends?
I try every morning to do daily worship.
Really?
So yeah, every morning I have like a set of days that I bathe and dress.
No
And I've
kidding.
been doing that for say around 10 years now. So like just the consistency in that helps.
It's fantastic. Fantastic. So it's not cosmetic, it's something that's inside.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. How old were you when you first got the deities?
4.
Wow. Wow. I'm obviously I'm wowed by that kind of thought. That's fantastic. Okay. Enough questions. Do you read? Not much. Not at all. You don't read. Do you listen to recorded lectures?
Well, my parents do, and I'm around.
You're around what they're doing.
So I guess.
A little sharing from my side with you. I have one of those little red things about like that big, and it has all the Prabhupada's recorded anything, you know, Bhagavad Gita class, Bhagavatam class, Chaitanya Charitamrita class, Bhajan class, his own japa, his singing bhajans, it's like 2,000 recordings. And every day for umpteen years, just, listen, and the third time around listening from the very beginning, going through. It's while I'm brushing my teeth and doing stuff. And then, some other part of the day is hearing him chanting japa, because I have a little doodad, I can listen to his japa. And then some kirtan. It's just, it's kind of like usually, in the background, but it's part of my life. And many things stick. Not everything sticks, but many things stick, and they're just, over time, I feel like the connection with Prabhupada through hearing from him. And for other reasons too, but that's one, just hearing. I like to read too. Okay, is this your brother? You want to do some sharing, just like you mind? Right, you feel picked on, or it's okay? You got the question, right?
You say it again.
Yeah, sure. Our hostess wanted me to have a discussion with adults about what a teenager can do from the teenager perspective, not the parent perspective. What a teenager can do to maintain Krishna consciousness, that the presumption there's something already there to maintain while passing through teenage life. So I thought it much more appropriate than speaking about teenagers to adults, just have teenagers speak something. So that's, the spotlight is on, what do you do? What do you find? What resources do you draw upon to help maintain that and maybe develop the strength of the Krishna consciousness that you've been given or has come into your life?
I like to do a lot of kirtan and like make friends while I do kirtan, so that maybe when I'm not at the temple, I can still like hang out with them, and then like have like motivation to keep going to the temple, so I can be with them and keep them kirtan.
Mm-hmm. Like your brother. Do you do deity worship too?
Not right now, but when he goes to college, I'm gonna do daily worship on his days.
You gonna let him?
I have to.
You can take the deities with you.
I don't think I can really take it to the dorm in college, but maybe after a year.
Okay. Yeah, because who knows, right?
Huh?
Because who knows what kind of roommates you're gonna get in your freshman year. Okay. Any other things, Kirtan? He's got the microphone. Go ahead.
When I was a little younger, she used to read like books to me, and like I would just listen to like the pastimes and the stories of like Krishna, and like the Mahabharata and things like that.
You like Mahabharata readings?
Yeah.
A lot. Ramayana also? When you were growing up and hearing Mahabharata and Ramayana, what was your favorite parts? Like most boys, the battle scenes?
The battle scenes in the Mahabharata.
And aside from just hearing the stories, did you discuss, what you heard with your brother, or with your parents or anybody? Just hearing.
Sorry.
Were you engaged in discussing what you heard, or was just hearing and then move on to the next thing?
I would discuss some of the stuff like that I like read or watched, because I also watched like Little Krishna
Mm.
and like those shows or whatever.
I just heard something today from Bhakti Vigyan Swami. Do you know who he is? Russian by birth. He's become a very advanced devotee. He was recording, somebody sent it to me, so I listened to it. He's speaking on one verse from Canto 3, Chapter 8, Bhagavatam. The verse had to do with the four Kumaras asking Lord Sankarshan to recite pastimes of the personality of Godhead to them. It's like a retelling of the Bhagavatam. So one of the many points he made is a sign. So this is what sharing something that I learned today, or it resonated. A sign that one has heard is that there's questions. A sign that one hasn't really heard is just you nod your head and say yes, yes. But if you're really hearing, then his point was, then some lights are going to go on. You want to understand something more about this and how this applies to that, and when you're really hearing. So it's good. I'm encouraging when you hear, not just so that I can raise my hand and show that I'm a smart guy. I've got some good questions, but you really want to assimilate what you have heard, and then to assimilate what you've heard, some little lights are going to go on, just saying how does this fit with that, or how do I understand this when that says that over there, or how do I apply this in my life, or some questions. He said it like 6 times. It was an important message for his audience. And apparently it's how he lives his life too. He reads a lot. He's a very learned person. And that means he has a lot of questions. Or at least when he reads the Bhagavatam or Mahabharata, and there's some events, he wants to understand them, and those wanting to understand leads to questions. Okay. We have any other live specimens in the room? Teenager? You understand what our topic is? No? Do you mind sitting there with the microphone and answering? So the topic is, our hostess made a request of a topic. Not what parents should do, but what teens can do to maintain their Krishna consciousness. That means the assumption is there's already some Krishna consciousness to maintain while passing through teenage life. Because without listing all the challenges, what are some of the things, the positive things that you do to maintain your Krishna consciousness?
So, well, when you go to the temple, you can make friends that are your age, and you can start talking to them and trying to hang out with them.
Mm.
And if you're at home, you can kind of text them or say
Yeah.
if you want to go hang out somewhere, or you can even do kirtan somewhere, or even at home. And so, yeah.
Mm, mm. Kirtan is really important. I would like to encourage, the four of you. Adults do this, and I know there's some youth also do this, and that's reading groups. A 2 or 3 or 4, not too many because it gets cumbersome, but a group of some number, small number of persons that come together on a regular basis, and the project is to read something together, and then read something together and then discuss what you've read. Then maybe somebody can be a facilitator and say, let's suggest some topics from what we read to discuss. What do you think of discussing this? Or just open-ended discussion. And then do that as you spoke about regulation, do something like that on a regular basis. And it strengthens friendship on another platform than the kirtan only platform. They get the message from whatever the books might be. Now these days, in addition to Bhagavad Gita and our core Krishna conscious literature, there's many authors. One of the places I stay, I won't say where, there's like a stack like this of those type of books written by this one, that one, the other one, the other one, the other one. And it's the audience is customized for the younger generation people and the kinds of questions and thoughts that younger generation people have, and they address them in those books. Or just, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and our devotional texts. But, something that suits, a small group of you, and do that on a regular basis, and you'll find that there's, because I know some young people who do this, the dimension of your relationships becomes a little different and a little deeper on the spiritual side rather than the music and social side. Primarily the music and social side. And then some Krishna consciousness. So someone had their hand up. Do you want to contribute?
He's the host.
What?
He's the son of the host.
That's what you were waving your arm for. Okay. Our hostess, you want to share something?
Thank you so much, Maharaj, that topic. And why I think they are not showing the clear picture.
They're not showing what?
Clear picture, what means I felt that they have some kind of internal
Shyness? You got to get a teenager to turn that thing on.
internal struggle for them. Like whatever they see it in a temple or at home, but when they go to the school, they completely wiped out, and they learn different type of things like a brand or Snapchat, TikTok, and all kind of things. So, and also like for example, every 15 days we have a Ekadashi. It's very difficult for them to convince them that you have to have this, and sometimes they struggle themselves. Oh, how can I avoid this? How can I do that? Definitely, kirtan is a very big attraction. Even any kirtan in the temple, whenever it happens, 24 hours, all the teenagers are there. Other than that, they don't want to go to temple. So I feel that they are struggling in themselves. They should have that thing that it's Sunday, I have to go to temple. It should come directly in
Well, you can't dictate that. Your enthusiasm isn't necessarily gonna translate into their nodding their head and saying yes. And even if they nod their head and say yes, is that what's inside? Besides nodding their head and saying yes.
So that's means
You know, you're not a teenager growing up in America. Today. So they have, you know, I'm empathetic. It's a, now, what can they do from their side? That's for them to decide. You, this is me to parents. You know, those of you that have children that are before teenage, this is your chance to help develop ABC. Because if ABC is there, I know some children, ABC is there. It's not just because mom and dad say, it's they've thought about it because it has to do with them, plus the model of parenting that the parents have used. They don't just tell them, they, you know, explain, and they live the example, and they see the, so when there's something inside to maintain, then it is to be maintained, because it's a value. So, you know, for those parents that have children that aren't teenage yet, that's your opportunity to fill up the value system with values that are not just imposed values, but they're thought about. You know, like the Sakadasi example. Why? You know, if it's just you, for you it's easy. For them it's like, why? And if they understand the why, you know, it can be explained. And you do a little project. And, you know, not just you do and then tell them, but you work with them as a parent to understand what's the why behind it. There's teachings, and then there's principles of control of the mind and senses. Is there merit in controlling the mind and senses in alignment with auspiciousness? Is there merit in that? Is that a principle to incorporate within your lifestyle? And then, you know, then they can make decisions. But if you don't equip them before their teenage, then it's a little bit more difficult when they're teenage to start. You get the message? You know,
yes, Parent.
it's not a harangue, it's just a reality. I empathize with teenagers a lot. It's really tough time. One of the, now I'm not just speaking to the mom, I'm speaking to one of the images that I present. Oh, okay, we'll do it this. Next weekend, I'm going to be in Gitanagari. And in Gitanagari, it's going to be a body, mind, spirit retreat. And the people that come are people that really don't know too much about anything. They just like what the message is. The body, mind, spirit sounds cool. Since the social media people respond and say yes, and they sign up and they come. And then they come again, bring some friends. A lot of new people, mostly Western. And one of the things that I'm going to be speaking about is Gita values. And in the introduction slide, it shows, it's an image, I like visual stuff. Shows some people walking, and then there's a doorway, and then there's a big cliff, big cavern in between this mountain, then a cavern, and then that mountain, there's another door. So it's meant to say, there's a place we want to go, but there's a big gap between where we are and where we want to go. And that's teenage life. You know, you're dependent and you're moving to being independent. And it's really uncomfortable when you're transitioning from something that's known to something that's unknown. I empathize a lot with teenagers. It's like super uncomfortable. And the people that are wishing to help them go through that discomfort. They can't go through it for them. They have to allow them to go through it themselves. So what was learned on this side of that graphic is going to carry them to the, they have to know what the other side is and what's of value over there. A little personal story. Once upon a time, I was a kid. And when I was a kid, I grew up in a Christian family, and like good Christian kids, we went to Sunday school. And in Sunday school, I learned about heaven. So I asked Mom and Dad, what's it like there? We're supposed to want to go to heaven. What's the travel advertisement? What's the marketing? What's it like? I'm supposed to want to go there. What's there? They didn't have an answer. They didn't say, we don't have an answer. They just patted me on the head and said, oh, isn't that cute? I went to the priest. The priest didn't have an answer either. I mean, he said, blah, blah, but he didn't have an answer. So I stopped asking because it was humiliating to ask such a fundamental question and get no answer. Some years passed. I got busy being, successful and passed through successfully, survived teenage life. Now I'm in college. And those questions started coming up again. Without the whole biography, but started asking fundamental questions. And I didn't get answers. And I wanted answers. So I started looking around for where I get, where in the spiritual marketplace, where there are answers. Now that's because there was something inside that said, there's another reality besides this. And any two-bit teenager is going to agree with that one. There's another reality. And it's not this. So what is it? I don't know. But I want to know. So those are three things. So if you as a parent can be with your teenager and assume, or if that fundamental is there is a higher reality. I don't know what it is, and I want to know what it is. And then you work with it. You can be, you're the coach, not the deciding person. And that's how a teenager, if they have those kinds of resources, they're not deciding for somebody or dictating this behavior, that behavior. But what's it all about? What's this higher reality thing? It sounds attractive. What's it like? How do you get there? And then toss in the Codicy, for example. Is that a useful horse to ride to get there? What is it about a Codicy that has the merit to get to that other place, that where I want to go place? How does it connect? If I don't see the connect, then if there is a connect, then it's not so difficult. In a freshman in a dormitory to maintain the codices twice a month, for example. It's not so difficult. I mean, it's a little odd for the people that don't even know what a codicy is and why you're doing this. My experience is if the persons that you're with are accepting of who you are, then you can do all kinds of stuff they don't understand what it's about. And they're accepting because that's you. And then you have to be a little bit accepting of who they are too. They may do some stuff that you wouldn't do. but you don't have to judge them and condescendingly look down at them. You can be an influence to have them think something else is the wholesome thing to do instead of that thing. So it's a role of an instrument on behalf of Krishna. So if I can see myself as that, then I can cope with dealing with the options and don't involve myself with distractions so much. Any person, young, medium, or old, any person that has a spiritual interest of any kind, there's some restrictions of becoming over dependent and over involved in materialism or material energy. So I, as a young person, I want to choose what I involve myself with wisely, cautiously. That kind of encouragement from the parent to the child has its place, but without imposing my values and my standards. Just speaking principle. Then how does does that principle make sense to you? If it doesn't make sense to you, please share with me how it doesn't make sense. If it makes sense, then how does it apply in your life today? You're going to school. High school is starting up again very soon. Or it hasn't had it started yet? Not yet. Real soon. September. Okay. So say, then your parents could be a coach, and they're going to make their decisions. That's the way it should be. Make wise decisions. Anything else? Anybody in the room? Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Guru Maharaj, I have a question. You're talking about the other reality, that there is something beyond this material world, and I understand, but sometimes it's a hard concept with children. They, especially if there are other family members who believe that, or who has seen after death, who knows if there is a heaven or hell, whatever is there, it's here, so you live your life. And so how do I teach my children that
Yeah, you just ask 1,001 questions. If they ask questions, they'll come to that conclusion. And it doesn't have to be complicated questions. It's just fundamental questions. You want some examples? For example. Does matter move on its own? Is there any example where matter moves on its own? You say robotics, but it takes a person to design the robot and then to power the robot and to give direction to the robot, and then it can run. And then when the battery runs out, or the plug run, it doesn't run. There's some intelligence behind. It's energy that animates the machine, and intelligence that operates the machine. There isn't a machine that operates on its own. So take that principle, apply it. Does an airplane fly on its own? Does a spaceship get into space just on its own? And so on and so on and so on. So behind everything, there's a person with intelligence. Where does everything come from? Where does anything come from? Where does everything come from? It comes from a person. So what is that person? That controller that has no controller. then you take, just take another example, another example, another example. Do you have a father? Yes. Does he have a father? Yes. Does he have a father? Where's the original father? Is there such a thing as an original father? It would intuitively say there must be an original father. Whatever that is, that's that from which everything else comes. There is such an entity, a person, a father, and material nature is the mother. They're just beings don't just come into being. There's material nature. If you just go through the example, Prabhupada would do it tirelessly. Practically, in the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he never got tired of saying the same thing, just like he's speaking about repetition. Again and again and again. It doesn't make sense to think things come about automatically. There's no such thing. We don't have the experience of such a thing. Behind everything, there's a person. An intelligent person. Intelligent being. So that's that high reality. Beyond all that is temporary, just like, who am I? Who do I send this to? Mahamantra. I'll send you a little video. Ship of Theseus. You heard of that one? Plutarch, the Greek philosopher, to help people understand the perpetualness of life, even though things are ever changing. He told a parable of the ship of Theseus. So I'll send it to he'll send it to all of you, and just play that and ask your youngster, what do you think of this? I was in Beijing last time. I was in Beijing at a yoga studio. First question: what do you think? What's your take on the ship of Theseus? So where'd you learn about the ship of Theseus? In China, in philosophy class. And it's just meant, even in China, although they have so much rich teachings and things, their philosophy class is teaching this. It's to ask, the perpetualness of life, even though everything is changing. Be a little thoughtful. What is it that's not changing, despite everything that's changing? What is it? Is there something that's unchanging? So it doesn't take arm twisting or imposing your values. It's just being thoughtful. My experience with kids is they like being challenged with thoughtful questions. And then they'll come up with, some funny answers. But the thoughtful ones will come out from thoughtful children. And they'll, at least my experience is, they eventually get it. I just have another little example. I was sharing something in a japa retreat about the power of the holy name. And I gave the example of the light of the sun is diffused, but the light of the sun is fire, is heat and light. Over and over again, Prabhupada would say, heat and light. So because the fire of the sun is diffused, it doesn't, feel fiery. You can be hot in the summer, but it's not fiery. But you take a magnifying glass, I said it 3 times, and then 10 kids came up afterwards and showed me that they experimented. They took the magnifying glass, held it at a certain angle, held it above some paper, and focused the light from the magnifying glass, and it created fire. Because the light of the sun is fire. light and heat of the sun is fire. And similarly, the holy name, it's fire-like. It gives light, and it can awaken our dormant consciousness. But you have to stay, when you do the magnifying glass thing, you can't move your hand. You have to hold it at the right angle and hold it steady. So the mind has to be like that too, for the power of the mantra to work. Let's try it. Then you challenge them. Let's try it for 3 minutes. Stay with it. And see what happens. Just like you did it with the magnifying glass. You take something and apply it to another something. And they were into it. I mean, initially they were giggling, but then they got it. They started doing it, and then they started trying to chant and experience the power of the holy name. Because they're bright kids. Just someone had to turn the switch on to get them to be thoughtful rather than just playful. It's parenting is not easy. It can be nice too.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I think that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. I hope we did justice to what you wanted. At least something.
Thank you so much, Maharajji. But I think, what should I say? All teenagers are already gone. So I think they already learned the valuable lessons